Grace Auburn, welcome back to the Grace Auburn Church Podcast. We are so excited that you are joining this conversation with us today. My name is Lee, and I serve as executive pastor here at Grace Auburn Church and host to this podcast. And I'm joined today by Rainey Kavoo. Welcome to the podcast. I'm glad to have you here today.
Blessed to be here.
Can we talk about how I know how to say your last name? Can we just go ahead and...
Yeah.
Yeah, you looked at me
Crushed
with
it.
great surprise.
Yeah, you crushed it.
All right, that's fair. Rainey is recently married to Thomas, and we are thrilled to have them as the newest addition to our staff family. A little bit of context and a little bit of a start up for those who may have not listened to any of these other podcasts titled, Why Would You Want to Work for a Church? These conversations really serve two purposes. One is for you to share your story of your journey into Grace Auburn Church and how the Lord has made a way for you to come onto our staff team and how you're excited about that, nervous about that, ready for that, trying to figure out what all that means, but also as a way for the members of our church who may not know you yet, and I say yet and I mean yet, that it would be a means of introduction, a way for them to hear some of your story and go, man, I would love to know more about what does it look like to serve with internationals, or what does it look like for us to think about our family going overseas, or how can we pray, or any of those types of things. Or they just would like to know you as a person. What's it like to be married to Thomas? What's it like to be involved with international ministry and all of those types of things? And so I'm excited for this conversation. I'm excited for you to share some of your story. So I think best place to start is just to jump in. I'll let you run with it, Rainey, talking about your journey into Grace Auburn. I'll let you start wherever you want to, and we'll see where the Lord goes.
Okay. Well, being the youngest of 9, I guess I'll start there. Growing up in a big family.
Yeah.
From Birmingham. A little south of Birmingham. I say Birmingham, but technically Alabaster.
Okay. Yes.
But grew up in a Christian home. Very involved in a Presbyterian church in Alabaster. And just as we go forward, I'll talk a lot about missions, but I think that started when I was basically born.
Okay.
Because I was born into not only a church that was mission-minded, but a family. My dad was a dentist. He's retired now, but he went to Africa on medical missions. We would host missionaries in our home during Missions Week at our church. And Missions Week at our church was just my favorite week,
nice,
for sure, of the year. I love meeting the missionaries there that would come and talk about what God was doing across the world. And so at a young age, I just loved hearing about the nations. And when I got to high school, I had opportunity to go to Belize. And I think up until that point, like my faith with Christ, like I'd say I prayed to receive Christ at age 7. I never knew a day I didn't know who Jesus was.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really until high school that I saw that it wasn't just what my family believed or my parents believed, but it was I kind of took my faith as my own, as He is my personal father, personal heavenly Father. And so when I went to Belize on a short-term mission trip, it was the first time I had fully experienced God in a different language, in a different culture, to hear, this is the day, the song in Spanish. It just was it really shaped my heart for the nations, just seeing that, God is so much bigger than Birmingham, Alabama. And that kind of pulled me into, I went to Troy and got my undergrad there in elementary education, and go Trojans, of course. Loved Troy. And as a freshman, I didn't go to Troy thinking, there's a lot of internationals here. But I quickly got plugged into a group of Korean girls. They were so sweet, and they came to our farm several times, rode horses, and just got to know the international community there in Troy, which as a student at Troy, I was involved at Campus Outreach, just as a college student, and went to Summer Beach Project for a summer after my freshman year of college. And I don't remember the total number of students that were in Destin, Florida, but the only 2 female international students were in my room. And so I lived with a Japanese girl and a Korean girl. And honestly, that summer, the Lord really just was just pulling my heart towards Japan. And that led into, and fast forwarding to the following summer, I spent a summer with MTW, Mission to the World, in Japan, in Nagoya, Japan, and worked among missionaries there in gospel music ministry.
Let's go.
And taught English classes, and it was an incredible summer. I left that summer being like, I want to go back to Japan as soon as possible. And I went into really quick summer from Japan, went straight into RA training, and was an RA in the International Dorm in Troy for 2 full years, where if you can imagine being in a hall and you smelled Indian, Chinese, Swedish, Nepali, like all types of foods.
Yeah.
All cooked at the same time. But I was like their, I guess, their mom in some sense.
Yeah.
And so experienced a lot of just cultural immersion in Troy, Alabama.
Yeah.
So many international students in that dorm. And another fast forward would be I decided with my elementary education degree, like following that summer, living with a Japanese friend, the Lord really was just continue to plug in my heart to Japan. And when I graduated, I was like, Lord, how can you use my degree to serve you overseas? And if I'm being honest, like I went into that, to my graduation, going into like, Lord, how can you use me? I really thought the Lord was calling me to long-term missions in Japan. And I kind of made the joke that it was my plan that the Lord would call me into that. But I did commit to a year in Japan and taught at a small international school in Chiba, Japan, right after college. And that year, the Lord really humbled me. I went to Japan thinking this is what I want to do long term. Lord, being a missionary is where you've called me. And the Lord, within 2 months, really humbled me and showed me that this is not what I think I want for you, but you're my daughter. Yeah. And that's your identity, not if you're going to be a missionary in Japan. Yeah. So that year in Japan, I grew a lot in my faith, but it was also a really just hard year. I really struggled with insomnia, didn't sleep well in Japan, and homesickness, and balancing teaching elementary students and also high school students, because as a missionary, you kind of just, you go in and wherever the need is, and the need was, I need you to teach biology and geometry, which those are my least favorite subjects in high school. Yeah. So, of course, the Lord would call me to teach them. Yeah. But I really, like, that year was a humbling year for me, because the Lord was just showing me that you being a missionary in Japan is an idol for you. And also, I think I was struggling with, because I was seeing that the Lord was pulling me from that, I was starting to feel shame that I was failing. Yeah. Like, I was failing as a teacher in Japan, so therefore I'm a failure. I got back from Japan in July 2018, and the Lord really just comforted me. He placed missionary counselor in my path, had just counseling, and really took a few months off of just like, I'm going to be a nanny for my brother and his family, and really just sought the Lord with, Lord, what do you want from me? Yeah. And a pivotal conversation that I had was a Brazilian guy just calls me. He was involved at Campus Outreach. He calls me and talks to me about international ministry with CO at Troy. And this Brazilian is named Raul Pacheco, and I worked with him for 6 years. But that was the pivotal time, coming back from Japan, not knowing, Lord, what do you want from me? Yeah. And he called me into international student ministry, which just felt like home because of my time in college at Troy. Right. I don't know if you have a question. I feel like I've just
you've done so well. I had no directions, no questions needed. All right. Raul calls you. You moved to Troy.
In 2019.
In 2019. Give us the transition from Troy to here. In terms of that work. CO largely not on Auburn's campus at the time. And still, when people say CO, they often think Campus Outreach Summer Beach Project, whether that's at Alabama, Troy. I know South Alabama has a big Campus Outreach presence. Auburn does not. So maybe give us a little bit of that context, how you got involved. Obviously, you were at Troy, so you were involved with their student ministry. How did Raul get your information and kind of that journey to Auburn?
For sure. So in 2017, when I left for Japan, Raul was moving to Troy. And so CO is, like you said, Campus Outreach is traditionally for American students. But in 2017, they started an international student ministry team in Troy, and Howell was the leader of that.
Got it.
And so when I was in Japan, they were starting that in Troy. So when I came back, they heard about me through my pastor in Troy when I was a college student. And so when Howell called me, he was saying, you know, there's an international student ministry team now at Troy. Would you be interested in joining this team? So there was a time of me to go through, you know, assessment with CO.
Sure.
But I came on staff with CO in 2019, raised support, and I moved to Troy in 2019 and was in Troy for 2 years. But due to just some changes in our staff team, and also Troy was, to be honest, I love Troy and I was loyal to default there. I probably should have moved earlier than I did from Troy to Auburn, but Troy was a vibrant place for personal ministry, but as a single girl in her late 20s, it was really hard community-wise, and I felt very dry in regards to just community and feeling fed. And so in 2021, I moved to Auburn and worked. Howell had already moved the year before.
Oh, okay.
Him and his family had moved in 2020. Great year to move to a new
start something
raising.
new.
Yes.
Sport raising in 2020.
Yes. So, but I joined Howell and the Pachecos in 21, and so still with COISM, International Student Ministry, but just transferred to Auburn.
Okay.
And was with Auburn and here from 21 to 25.
Okay. All right.
Position, so.
Give us a little bit of, you know, what does international student ministry look like here? Obviously, you're working hand in hand with Howell. You're part of a network of teams around the state that are doing international student ministry. Alex and Brittany Watkins eventually come on to the staff team, who are also members here. If you're listening to this podcast before the Campus Outreach podcast, this episode is airing. We're recording this in September, but it's going to be posted in October. Right on the heels of this podcast episode will come one where we highlight COISM, but we recorded that one in the summer before you were married. It was really just a whole lot of moving parts this summer trying to get some of these podcasts recorded. So just know some of our conversation in the COISM ministry highlight will be a little bit outdated as we think about, at one point we thought that episode was going to air before this one. Our communications director has, in her infinite wisdom, decided this one should be first. I completely agree with that, but we also did not go back and re-record that one. So full disclaimer on the next several weeks of order of things when it comes to Campus Outreach. Rainey, who was still on Campus Outreach then, not yet married, is now married, and is now on our staff team.
Yes.
Give us kind of your introduction to Grace Auburn, your introduction to your now husband, all that story.
Can't forget about him.
Do not forget about the infamous Thomas. I'd love to hear your story on that front in terms of you land in Auburn in 2021. Mm-hmm. You guys are starting from the ground up with COISM. Mm-hmm. When did you find Grace Auburn?
Yeah, so I remember the day because it's just easy to remember, July 15th of 21, I moved to Auburn, and I had a mutual friend that knew Raina, at the time, Raina Lanier, now Raina Armstrong, but a mutual friend that I went to college with in Troy that knew Raina, and she connected me to Raina. And so my first Sunday here, or it might have been my second, I think I visited another church too with my roommate, but she got me connected to Raina, and I sat by Raina for the first Sunday at Grace Auburn. And honestly, the first Sunday here was incredible because we were praying for unreached people group, and it just felt like my heart. And so the following few months, I was visiting Grace Auburn, and I was visiting another church. And honestly, because within International Ministry, there's so many different organizations and churches connected to the community here. And so when I was with international students, I kept meeting people that I was like, hey, what church you go to? Like Grace Auburn. I was like, I kept meeting Grace Auburn people through the international communities. And so I was like, all right, Lord, like, what are you doing here? And so I continued to go to Grace Auburn, and I got plugged into a community group and became a member in January of 22.
Okay.
And I joined Ben and Holly Bush's community group February of 22, and haven't gone back. I love them so much. Holly has been very just sweet friend, even in dating Thomas.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I would give a lot of credit to Rainey Armstrong, honestly. She was a dear friend at the beginning of my time here. She was my first Grace Auburn friend. It was confusing when we'd sit next to each other, and during the greeting moment, we would introduce each other as Raina and Rainey, and it confused everyone. They thought we kind of were siblings. We also have curly hair, and now we're married to black men, so it's easy to get us confused.
You're both working in Outreach.
Yes,
You're working for the same church.
Yes. Similar names.
Yes.
But yeah, I think honestly, community group was so vital for me getting plugged in. But I think the heart of Grace Auburn is, the nations, having pastors that have served overseas. Just, it's such a heartbeat of our church. And so that's that was the main thing that really I felt like the Lord was calling me here, because I wanted to be a part of a community that was reaching the internationals together. Yeah. And so, I've loved Grace Auburn, and I'll give Grace Auburn and the Lord, of course, the Lord first, credit that I met Thomas, my now husband, through Grace Auburn. I was actually his driver to a welcome dinner at the Bell's home.
Yes. Because Thomas is not American.
He is not. He's from Kenya.
Yes, he is.
And so I met Thomas back in 22. But we didn't start dating because I am, me, and very cautious and hesitant and stubborn. We didn't start dating until the end of 23. Yeah. But again, it was just Grace Auburn was so pivotal in our friendship. Like our relationship started with just a friendship. We were part of a core group from our church, engaging internationals, and Thomas, being international himself, he just had so much good input for us. And so that's how we became friends, and then started dating, and the rest is history, I guess. Got married July 12th. But me and Thomas have absolutely loved this church. Yeah. Thomas, he could share his own story of how he felt welcomed as an international into this body of believers, and I think for us both to have such core friends here that poured into us when we were dating, that was supportive of us, praying for us as we were navigating dating and engagement, and now married. And just a fun fact is Howell married us. Sadly, Matt was on sabbatical, so he wasn't able to marry us, but Howell got to, and so that was just a great blessing to us. Sweet. Yeah.
All right. So 2019, you came on staff with CO. Mm-hmm. You worked with CO until this summer.
Yes.
Share with everyone listening. I think it would be really good for our body to know not only your passion for international students. You've shared a lot about your passion for this church. How was that transition in terms of coming on staff with the church? How are things different? I have a whole host of questions of things that we could talk about. I'd love to know what the transition was like. I'll ask a separate question after you answer that, just about what you're excited for. But let's just look at this summer in terms of the conversations that were had, really beginning in the spring and maybe even into last year.
Last October.
It really was. Raina. Did Matt start that? Who started that conversation?
Raina. Okay. Raina came up to me 2 weeks before her wedding.
Yes.
And was like, hey, Lee mentioned maybe, would you be interested in coming on? It was so out of the blue. We were at Grace campus outside about to have a s'more. And she was like, hey, by the way, Lee mentioned this to me. And I was like, what? I was so it was out of the blue in my mind at the time.
Had the idea of working for a church ever occurred to you, or had it always been parachurch, MTW, and or COISM kind of in your framework?
Well, honestly, until I got plugged in at Grace Auburn, I would say that Campus Outreach International Ministry was going to be what I was going to be doing for a long time. Yeah. But I also said that about a lot of things, and I would have never thought I would marry a Kenyan, and here we are. And so, but I think during dating Thomas asked me the question, if you weren't working for CO, what other job would you want? And I don't know if this is prophetic or not, but I did say like working for a church.
Yeah.
Because that felt like something I was along my passions and giftings, but specifically missions too, working for a church involved in missions. So, I don't know if I answered your
I think you did. I think
question.
Well, I think the idea of the Lord, and I'm glad you brought it in the way that you did, because this church from its very beginning has asked the question over and over and over, God, would you bring, please, like we beg and plead, would you bring the right people at the right time for the right roles? And that's everything from community group leaders. I mean, your biggest reason for moving to Auburn was community, and you meet the king and queen of hospitality and Ben and Holly Bush.
Amen.
And just how well they have modeled community, now serving as deacons here at Grace Auburn, overseeing and helping shepherd and care for the needs of community group leaders and the members who are in those community groups. And to have landed you in a church that not only was forming a community or inviting you into community, but also that same church with a desperate heart for international students who are here and for those who will go to unreached people's places around the world eventually and currently. Such a kindness of the Lord to have done what he did. And absolutely the Lord's working in your life to share with Thomas. This would be, if I was doing anything else, I'd love to be doing this. I don't really remember. I remember having that conversation with Raina. I remember having the conversation first with Matt, saying it to Raina.
Yeah.
And even at the time saying, okay, well, if we say it to Raina, she's going to say it to Rainey, and even giving her permission to do so, just to ask the question, hey, what would this look like down the road as we think about, for her, she's transitioning from student ministry into all things local outreach. That's a job that was really created and crafted both out of need and strategically around her giftings and passions for the community, having worked with multiple and partnered with multiple organizations in our community over the last several years. The same is true on the international outreach side of things. Lord, if we could think of one person who's in our body that would do this well right now, it would be Rainey. And so let's just at least see if that's even interesting to her. All right, so that's October. When did you guys get engaged?
March 1st.
Okay, so somewhere between March 1st and the summer, you and I had a conversation about really the Lord is for sure putting this on your heart. Now we're working through the logistics, the timing, life change, what's good for CO, ISM, what's good for Grace Auburn. How was that process for you?
Yeah, well, I will say that when Raina approached me about it back in October of 24, and then Matt had, in his wisdom, we were being counseled. Me and Thomas were being counseled by Matt. Matt said, we want to hold off on this until you get back from Kenya, because I was going to Kenya in December.
That's right.
And so y'all's wisdom gave us time to think and pray about it, because we weren't engaged yet either.
That's right.
Thinking about starting a new job, leaving CO. And so, but I think maybe something I didn't completely share previously is just that, as I was involved with COISM, and because I was involved here at Grace Auburn, it felt like a natural shift in the sense of I was working with students here, college students that were involved in internationals. It felt like the Lord kept on pushing me towards Grace Auburn and being towards staff, just because of how naturally things were shifting in that direction. But I think when we got engaged up until the summer, it was more of I feel like the Lord is calling us to this. But I would say I left CO with bittersweet feelings for sure.
No doubt.
I didn't leave because I was I'm so over Campus Outreach International. It was more oh Lord, can I give this up to work for for Grace Auburn, which felt like two great opportunities. Yeah. But I felt also with what the Lord was showing me and Thomas together as a couple, it felt yes, continue to follow me here. You're already plugged in here. And so it has, I think you asked me, what has it looked like being now on staff? There are definitely differences, but in international ministry, it's all about relational time. And so here at Grace Auburn, we're all about authentic gospel communities. And to draw in internationals into that, for them to experience that, is something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, being married to an international, seeing how Thomas was welcomed, being from Kenya, into this church family, and also his heart for his fellow African brothers. Like, it has felt such a natural thing for me to be a part on staff and continue doing what I was already doing.
Yeah.
Just in the context of the church.
Yeah. All right, let's jump straight from that into what are you excited about? Sometimes I ask this question, and I said this before we started recording, that sometimes we have this interview and it's after months of working at the church, sometimes almost a year, depending on the timing of how and what we're doing on the podcast. You've been working here for weeks at this point. So I'd love to talk about in that transition from Campus Outreach to Grace Auburn. What are you excited about? You kind of alluded to it a little bit. When you think about working here, what are you excited about? And I'll ask the same question and kind of let you wrap us up. You know, you could do a lot of things, have done a lot of things. Why do you want to work for this church? What are you excited about, and why do you want to work here?
Yeah, I think one of the things that most excites me about being on staff here at Grace Auburn is just the longing for our international members to feel seen and loved, and also for them to be a part of a community that no matter where you're coming from, whatever your mother tongue is, that the first and foremost, your identity is that you're in Christ.
Yeah.
And I think to love and care for our international friends that are involved in our church, and also to help them and help all of us, how do we welcome the international into this home, into this family, whether they've had experience with Christianity or not. And I think, international ministry is I keep using the word bread and butter, but I feel like that's what I'm most passionate about. But I also, growing up in like I shared, a mission-minded church, really want our Grace Auburn body to know where our missionaries are.
Yeah.
How do we pray for them?
Yeah.
How do we care for them? And so wanting to be a part of that in a small way of communicating and also just connecting. And I think, international student ministry is what probably excites me the most. But I think thinking about being in a bigger building and being able to welcome more international students, and also be a safe place for missionaries when they come back to the States. I'm wanting them to know that they're loved and cared for. We're praying for them. That definitely excites me. I think I've been thinking a lot about how to answer that question. Why would you work for this church? Why would you work for a church? And I think about the verse in Proverbs. It's Proverbs 16:9. It talks about a man plans his ways, but the Lord directs his steps. And I think when I think about my life and what God's done, I know that I want to be a part of a community that's serving the Lord together on mission for the nations. And what better place to do that than Grace Auburn? So that's a really simple, maybe way to answer it, but it just makes sense. I don't know how to explain it other than that, what God's called me to, and just faithfully trusting Him, taking a step, and trusting Him to lead me. And I know that me and Thomas, again, have just been so blessed to be a part of this family. So,
Well, we love having you both. Thank you for being on this podcast, for sharing a little bit of your story. We're blessed to have you here with us.
Thanks.
On behalf of the Grace Auburn Church family, thank you for listening to the Grace Auburn Church podcast. If you'd like more information about partnering with us and our mission, or ways that you can get connected, please go to our website, graceauburn.church.